I just want to deal with one topic which I foreshadowed a number of times, the worst lawsuit ever, which I think is a lot of fun. And I just want to just get it out now. I'll push Eric Adams back to L, and then I got just a little bit of little bit of sliver of extra material I couldn't quite squeeze into the tariff section, and then we'll do correspondence. So let's start with the big one, the lawsuits. Mm-hmm. Lachy, I'm going to talk you through a few unrelated lawsuits, okay?
Unrelated.
Completely unrelated, I say, with that voice. And then we'll discuss what they all mean, okay? First of all, a lawsuit where in 2021, Trump sued X, then Twitter.
Sorry, X is in the
company.
Oh, the company.
Yeah,
sure.
but
Cool.
then it was Twitter.
Yeah.
And 2021, he sued them for banning his Twitter account after January 6. Okay. So now you might be wondering, hang on, what's the grounds of this lawsuit? Like he kind of earned it, didn't he? His case was based on the idea that they only banned him because of government interference, government pressure in violation of his First Amendment rights, to annoy people on Twitter.
And no one is allowed to interfere with the government on January 6th.
Well, so you've identified one element there, but there's an even more obvious element. Well, it's not, I say obvious is the wrong word. If you think about it and you take yourself back to the time directly after January 6th, there is another element that you're missing, which is the real kind of element. And that is, who was the government right after January 6th?
As in right after, like January 7th? Or?
Yeah, well, when Twitter banned Trump, who was the government?
On January 7th, it would have been Trump, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been Trump. It was Trump. There's
a lot of government interference. He asked to be kicked off so that he could sue the government.
Yeah. So Trump was suing X, then Twitter, for banning him because he says that they were inappropriately influenced by his own government.
Well, that's called foreshadowing.
Yes, it is. Not a great lawsuit, not a high quality lawsuit, you have to say. Also, I mean, let's face it, it's pretty obvious that a private organisation, you shouldn't be suing them for violating your First Amendment rights because private organisations can't violate First Amendment rights. It's governments that violate First Amendment rights. So why are you suing Twitter? You should be suing the government, which in fact is what people did. People did sue the government for violating their rights through social media censorship. That's exactly what happened. There was a very famous Supreme Court case, which ended up culminating in a resolution at the end of last year where the Supreme Court said, actually, your First Amendment rights were not violated. So when they did sue the government, the Supreme Court said, you don't have a case anyway, let alone suing a private organisation. Has nothing to do with the government, and it's when it's your government anyway. Like, so it's a really bad lawsuit, this one. That's what I'm saying.
That is
okay?
the turducken of bad lawsuits.
Yes, it is. Just save your analogies because there are worse ones coming. But,
I only had one analogy.
But anyway, it's a bad lawsuit. In 2022, it was dismissed by a district court judge, and then Trump appealed because he's Trump. Went nowhere. Things got even worse for Trump when the Supreme Court handed down their ruling saying, you got no case, buddy. It wasn't about Trump, but it was about people who had better cases than Trump. And the Supreme Court still said they had no case. And in 2023, the oral arguments were heard, and they were apparently, I haven't seen them, but apparently they were a disaster for Trump as well. So it was bad news, this lawsuit. But then in August 2024, X sought for the charges to be dismissed, and Trump just said no. And then something happened. Something between August 2024 and January 2025. Something happened that led X to decide to negotiate to settle this lawsuit, which until then had looked like a piece of crap. But then they thought, something between August 2024 and January 2025. They said, no, we should settle. And just this week, X paid Trump off $10 million for this previously bullshit lawsuit.
Whoa, that's enough for some Trump coin.
Well, just a little bit. A little bit of Trump coin.
Some.
Yes. So I guess his case got a whole lot stronger in that intervening 5 months. Okay, that's the first lawsuit. Unrelated lawsuit. Trump sued Meta for suspending his Facebook account after January 6th as well.
Oh, okay.
Completely different lawsuit, this one. Of course, this one was also a bullshit lawsuit. It goes without saying, for all the same reasons. I'll cut to the chase here. After Trump won his election, once again, Facebook, Meta, there's something happened to Meta. They went from thinking this was a garbage lawsuit to all of a sudden Mark Zuckerberg was dining in Mar-a-Lago. And towards the end of that dinner, Trump reportedly, according to reliable sources, Trump reportedly raised the matter of the lawsuit. And apparently Trump said that the litigation had to be resolved before Zuckerberg could, quote, be brought into the tent. Now, I don't know who the source of that story was. I suspect it might be Schmorald Frump, that famous source about Trump lawsuits.
I call bullshit.
You don't think this dinner ever happened?
There's no way that Trump knows what a tent is.
Weeks later, though, regardless of whether a tent was involved or not, Zuckerberg returned to Mar-a-Lago for a full day of mediation. And now, just recently, about 2 weeks ago, Meta, paid $25 million. $22 million to go to Trump's presidential library, $3 million for legal fees for Trump. They paid up for this. And also, the Meta donated $1 million to his inauguration committee, which, remember, has no record keeping, no tracking, that doesn't have to jump through any hoops. No. There's no requirements. Trump can just put that in his pocket, essentially. So that's.
And why would you need to do anything more?
So that's where money goes. Anyway, so once again, Trump's arguments became infinitely stronger in the new year for some unforeseen, unknown reason.
I can't guess.
Let's go to another lawsuit, shall we? Another unrelated lawsuit.
MySpace.
ABC News.
Oh.
ABC News, not Australia, America. No. Trump sued ABC News because George Stephanopoulos, this is last year, just after the New York sexual assault case, when he was found guilty of, I've forgotten the name. The columnist. If you're Dave, you'd know.
I'm not Dave.
I know, it's a shame. You all know who I'm talking about. I'll look it up. And we just white flash while both Lachy and I use Google. E. Jean Carroll, of course. This is just after E. Jean Carroll verdict. George Stephanopoulos was on ABC News and he said that Trump had been found liable for rape. It was on their morning show, actually. He said Trump had been found liable for rape when a New York court had found him liable for sexual abuse under state law. Not rape, sexual abuse. The judge, though, had literally the day before explicitly said in court that this was commonly considered rape.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the judge had basically just set that up.
Yeah.
Completely. So what George Stephanopoulos said was entirely justifiable given the facts. It wasn't even close to maliciously false, which is the standard you need for defamation of a public figure. And it was easily within the bounds of the First Amendment. Once again, another bullshit lawsuit. No chance he's going to win this one. Very weak case.
Let me guess. Something happened between August 2024 and January 2025?
Yes. Lachy. Have you been looking at my notes?
No, I'm just getting a sense of these unrelated. Sometimes the universe is very lazy.
While ABC News tried the entire year to get that case to get that case dismissed and get Trump to drop the charges, drop the lawsuit because it was just ridiculous, and Trump just refused to drop it. After the election, ABC decided to settle for $15 million. $14 million for the presidential library, $1 million for legal fees. So, nice series of wins for Trump there in unrelated cases for unrelated reasons, I'm sure.
He must have been feeling pretty good because by total coincidence, just before that happened, he also coincidentally won an election.
Yeah, things were really looking good for him.
So that was a really good couple of weeks.
That guy must have found himself a four-leaf clover. Let me tell you, he was sitting pretty. His luck really turned. The best thing is, he probably, I don't know this for a fact, but this is Trump, so I'm pretty sure, has an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement in all of those settlements. So we're never going to find out about the details either, about that amazing luck. But it brings us to what I keep on referring to as the worst lawsuit ever. This involves CBS News now. Strap yourselves in. This is going to take a little while. He has been suing CBS for. No, I won't tell you the sum yet, but it's considerable.
240 billion pennies worth.
I'm not going to say anything until the right moment, but you can just keep that figure in your head if you wish. During the 60 Minutes Kamala Harris interview, which aired almost exactly 1 month before the election, Bill Whitaker, the co-host of 60 Minutes, asked Kamala Harris about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's response to the Biden administration's concerns about the war in Gaza. I'm going to play you the full question and answer. Now, I just want to emphasize, 60 Minutes edited this. At the time, we didn't know the full answer. We just know what they edited. And this has only just been released in the last, I'd say, week, maybe week and a half. But I'll play you the full question and answer as recorded between 60 Minutes and Kamala Harris.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening. The Wall Street Journal said that that your administration has repeatedly been blindsided by Netanyahu. And in fact, he has rebuffed just about all of your administration's entreaties.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. And we're not going to stop doing that. We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Okay, so that's not like the world's greatest answer or anything, but it's pretty boring and standard. Went for a while. When I can tell you from experience, when you run a TV show and answers go for a while, you tend to edit them, right? And
Podcasts are entirely different.
They're very, very different. And the problem for 60 Minutes was different. They obviously sent it out to Face the Nation, which is their CBS breakfast show, to promote the 60 Minutes interview. And Face the Nation chose to edit that answer in a different way, how 60 Minutes themselves chose to edit the answer. Okay, so they were floating around two different answers to the same question. And so when after the 60 Minutes story aired, people were going, well, what's going on here? And they were comparing them, and they're going, well, what's this all about? So I just want to be very clear about exactly what happened with the full answer. We're going to watch that again, and I will read out to you where each answer begins and ends. Okay, so you got a good idea of how this all fits together. Okay, so just play it exactly again, and I'll talk over the top of it. Let's go.
But it seems that
so here's
Prime
the
Minister
question,
Netanyahu
right?
is not
Same
listening.
question, both answers.
The Wall Street Journal said that that your administration has repeatedly been blindsided by Netanyahu. And in fact, he has rebuffed just about all of your administration's entreaties.
Well, Bill,
Preview answer starts here.
the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. And we're not going to
Preview answer ends there.
We're not
60
going to
Minutes edit starts
what is
now.
necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
60 Minutes edit answers ends there. Okay, so first the Face the Nation preview took their answer, and then almost directly after, like 5 words later or 6 words later,
The 60 Minutes one.
the 60 Minutes one took.
So we got the
their
full
bit.
clip.
You got the
just
full
in
clip
two
between
different
them.
places.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's what actually happened, right? We couldn't prove that at the time.
No.
Because they didn't release that footage until just now. We're going to go through all the timeline in a second. They didn't release a transcript at the time either. And I said at the time, just release the transcript. I mean, that's what, at the very least, we always put out on Plain America full interviews on Facebook that you can see for when we cut them down. And I think that's good practice for news, especially for a major news figure like a presidential candidate. So I actually think they went through bodgy process there, but not illegal process,
No.
just, I think, slack
Yeah.
process. So I think they should have released it, but they didn't, and so we didn't know. All we knew was what 60 Minutes said. And what 60 Minutes said was that they gave Face the Nation an excerpt of our interview that used a longer section of her answer than the segment used in the interview that aired the next day. It was the same question and the same answer, they said, but a different portion of the response. The portion of her answer on 60 Minutes was more succinct, which allowed time for other subjects in a wide-ranging 21-minute-long segment. And by the way, the interview went for like 44 minutes and the 21 minutes was on 60 Minutes, so it obviously had to be edited. Okay. Now, what they read out there turns out to have been 100% correct. That is exactly what they did. But at the time, Trump and the MAGA online right were making out like this is this massive scandal. Right? Which leads us to the Trump lawsuit. Trump said that CBS violated. Now,
That's a big word already.
There's more words to come. Now, try and concentrate hard here, okay? I wish I could show you stuff written down because it's complicated, but I'll try and guide you through the logic.
Focusing.
Okay, this is their logic. CBS violated Texas's Deceptive Trade Practices Act, which prohibits, quote, false, misleading, or deceptive acts or practices in the conduct of any trade or commerce. That's what Trump's lawsuit was about. Now, to be clear, the law defines trade or commerce not as a TV show, but as the advertising, offering for sale, lease, or distribution of any good or service, including any trade or commerce directly or indirectly affecting the people of this state. So, is a TV interview trade or commerce? I don't see that. Is it
A service?
is it a good or service? Like let's say they were being misleading.
Depends what show.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't think a TV show. I don't think a TV interview is a good or service. But I mean, let's just keep on going. Let's just keep on reading their logic. I mean, this is a free TV show, by the way. There was no sale. There was no lease. There was no like. There was distribution, but I'm not sure it's distribution of good or service. Anyway, that's just the first way this lawsuit doesn't make a lot of sense, right? This act was clearly about selling stuff, not about
Yes.
TV. Secondly, editing an interview in a straightforward manner like that was edited, that's obviously protected by the First Amendment. Obviously. Let's move on. Thirdly, Trump says that the Texas law, he quotes the Texas law again, a consumer may maintain an action. This is a section just saying whether this law applies to him or not.
Okay.
He says a consumer may maintain an action when they suffer economic damage or mental anguish as a result of false, misleading, or deceptive statements that he relied on to his detriment. So what did he rely on to his detriment in that interview?
It caused him mental anguish.
That caused him mental anguish. I mean, like you just saw, you saw the bit he's talking about there. Did you think any of that caused mental anguish, or that it would cause economic damage if he relied on that to his detriment?
Well, it would have caused economic damage to his plans for Gaza Largo.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Maybe now he does have a case.
Yes. Until now, he didn't. But maybe,
Which is why they've, I assume, settled it. The spoilers.
Yeah, that's a really good observation, Lucky. Maybe he outthunk us all. But until Gaza Largo comes into the picture, I'm failing to see how an editor choosing one answer rather than the other one could have caused either mental anguish or economic damages because he relied on that editing choice to his detriment. But I've just skipped past the word consumer. How is Trump a consumer by watching a TV interview? Like the law defines a consumer as someone who seeks or acquires by purchase or lease any goods or services. What was he purchasing or leasing from watching a TV interview?
Does he think that by purchasing the TV,
I don't know.
or maybe it's like his Foxtel subscription?
I don't know. I don't know, but you need to be a consumer for this act to be relevant to you.
Of course. Yeah.
So he obviously didn't purchase or lease anything from CBS or from 60 Minutes. And if you do call watching an interview buying a good or service, did Trump watch that interview because of false, misleading, or deceptive acts or practices, which is what the law requires? Because
he wasn't going to watch her interview beforehand, but he saw that short on Facebook and he was hooked.
It was the compulsive nature of the Face the Nation edit that drew him to watch that interview to his doom.
You can imagine him sitting in the lounge room, just flipping through the channels, going, "Oh, there's nothing. Oh, wait,
oh, that's a great answer."
And then the mental anguish it would have caused the guy.
Yeah, instantly. As soon as he watches 60 Minutes, and he goes, "Hang on, that's a different answer to the question." Ah, my mountain! And then the economic damages. Oh my God. None of this makes any sense. And you know what? I haven't even gotten to the worst part.
Oh, you haven't?
No,
okay,
I haven't.
Okay,
There's
sorry.
more. There's more. There's also a consumer if he is a consumer, let's just assume he's a consumer, can also sue under the law based on breach of an express or implied warranty or any unconscionable action. Okay, we got maybe unconscionable action there, but the law defines those as an act or practice which to a consumer's detriment takes advantage of the lack of knowledge, ability, experience, or capacity of the consumer to a grossly unfair degree. I don't even know what to start with this. There's got nothing to do with that interview at all. So the definitions aren't helping Trump much here, okay? But Trump's lawsuit said CBS did take advantage of his lack of knowledge, ability, experience, or capacity to know that they edited the interview. That's what his lawsuit says. And that is why he watched it, I think. I don't know. I just have one word. What? But this is the best bit. I've saved it till last. What are the damages, the economic damages that he suffered?
You said I should be I should be guessing this.
Yeah, remember before I said I left out the damages. What are the damages, both in number and the reason, how he justifies these economic damages? Because you need damages to sue. If you're not damaged, you can't sue, right? He says the damages he suffered as a consumer of the interview, even though he never purchased anything, are reasonably believed, this is a quote, reasonably believed to
Say it one more time.
Reasonably believed to be at least, it could be more, at least $10 billion.
Okay, I was going to be silly and say 1 billion.
Yeah.
Because I would have put it in 100 millions.
Your $240 billion pennies, the 240 billion pennies, that undershot. That's $2.4 billion, mate. He had 4 times as much mental anguish and damages as you thought. Yeah, $10 billion. At least $10 billion. Could have been more. Wow. He's been reasonable. He's knocking it down to a slimline $10 billion. And, he reasonably believed that, Lachy, after all.
It's just a reasonable assumption.
Okay. He says that CBS's, this is a quote, CBS's distortion of the 60 Minutes interview damaged President Trump's fundraising and support values by several billions of dollars, particularly in Texas. That's his justification, right? He's saying it's through fundraising. Okay, now let me ask you, how many less dollars do you think he raised because 60 Minutes played one answer rather than the other, or didn't run both answers in the preview as in 60 Minutes?
Are you asking me reasonably, or are you asking me?
I'm asking what you reasonably believe, Lachy.
I mean, what? Musk was giving out $1 million a day, so like a couple mil.
Bear in mind, this was a month before the election as well.
Okay.
Okay.
10. Have you got a figure?
Well, I have a figure. I don't know the answer. We can't possibly know what the answer is.
No.
It's a hypothetical.
Well, we do know what the answer is.
It's $10 billion. Any reasonable person will tell you that. At least $10 billion. But I do have a number to throw at you, which is the amount that Trump spent, which is pretty much equal to what he raised from beginning to end of the entire campaign.
Oh.
Not the last month, The entire campaign.
Oh, okay. So if this number's not anywhere near 10 billion.
And the answer is 355 million.
Wow. Okay.
But he is of the view that had that interview been edited just slightly differently, he would have raised $10.35 billion instead of $0.35 billion in the last month, just the last month. That is his contention in this lawsuit. If only CBS hadn't deceived people with that edit, Trump would have raised 30 times as much as his entire campaign in just 1 month. I feel offended personally that his legal team got paid to put that case together. I honestly think I could have done better, even though he had no leg to stand on. That was a really piss poor effort. So that was, in my view, the worst lawsuit ever. Meanwhile, we all know how this is ending, obviously, but there's a bit more in the middle. Meanwhile, Trump also filed an FCC complaint because he does that a lot as well.
Yeah.
FCC is the communications agency, which is in charge of all the broadcast TV stations. Trump likes filing FCC complaints against fake news, right? And he accused CBS of news distortion through that edit. Distortion.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Which is obviously bullshit. Also, obviously, a violation of CBS's First Amendment rights. To qualify as news distortion, the edit has to change the content in a way that would make it appear that she said something different, like meaningfully different. So, a quote from the FCC chair, the current FCC chair, the policy says you can't swap answers out to make it look like somebody said something entirely different.
Sure.
They did not do that. They used her actual answer, just a different part of the actual answer, right? And those two parts didn't contradict each other at all. They were just different answers to the question. That's all. They were talking about different things, right? But this complaint was, this FCC complaint, while it's a bit sketchy, it's kind of like the best of rake compared to that lawsuit. So I'll allow them this FCC complaint, right? Yeah. This is more standard. Sadly for Trump, just before the inauguration, the FCC dismissed his ridiculous complaint, as well as the equally ridiculous Trump FCC complaints against ABC, Fox, and NBC for other reasons. I won't go into it. We've already spent enough time on this story. The FCC noted the importance of honouring CBS's editorial discretion. Under the First Amendment, they also noted that CBS has that First Amendment right to report on matters of public concern as they see fit. But then, hope sprang anew because a new FCC chair took over, one appointed by Trump. His name's Brendan Carr, and he's spent the last few years squawking endlessly about free speech. Free speech, hey? Well, he immediately decided that NBC, ABC, and CBS complaints should all be reconsidered. The ones that all just been dismissed, he reconsidered. There was one complaint he didn't decide to reconsider. Can you guess which network that was from?
The Australian ABC?
No. Nice try. No, Fox News.
What?
Fox, I know. Who would have thought? The Fox complaint, that could be dismissed, but all the mainstream media
I'm
ones...
surprised there was a Fox complaint.
Well, no, Trump gets pissed off at Fox a lot.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah. They're not quite Newsmax, unfortunately, for him. Anyway, to be fair to Brendan Carr, he did say this would probably all go away if CBS just released a transcript, which at that point in time, they still hadn't done. And to be honest, I kind of agree with him. It's kind of their fault. I mean, look, it was obviously a bullshit complaint anyway, but they just should have released a transcript. They should have released the video, the full video. They should have released the transcript. I think they didn't want to get bullied by Trump.
Sure.
They didn't want to get pushed around.
Holding out till the election.
Yeah.
If we win, we're not releasing this ever.
Yeah, like I understand their logic, but I just think, even when there's a bullshit complaint, it's just good practice to release the whole interview. Like when you talk about presidential candidate. And he's right, Brendan Carr's right. If they had done that, it would have been really obvious that there was nothing to it, and then we move on. So fair enough, Brendan Carr. But then the plot thickened. And we discovered that there was a proposed merger between Paramount Global, who owns Paramount Pictures Film Studio as well as CBS, and Skydance Media, which produces films, Top Gun, Maverick, Mission Impossible, all Tom
Another
Cruise
Tom
stuff.
Cruise film?
Yeah, obviously they got something to do with Tom Cruise. But Paramount agreed to Skydance's terms in July 2024. A deal valued at $8 billion. Big bickies, right?
Whoa.
That's almost as much as Trump lost because of that edit. That's a lot of money. Right? But it needs to be approved by the FCC before the deal can go through because the FCC is in charge of CBS. Broadcast networks under the agency's purview. According to the New York Post, Carr, quote, told them, this is straight after, this is this was after the election, obviously, told them that a quick and clean approval is not on the table.
Oh.
And all else remains on the table, including an eventual approval or a denial, he said. So their merger was in doubt.
Oh.
You go, hang on. He's not threatening them, is he? Surely he wouldn't be threatening them when there's... He's supposed to be Mr. Free Speech, and this is a free speech issue, and he's threatening them with a merger. I mean, that's paranoia. That can't
Doesn't sound like a threat. It sounds like a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, maybe he didn't mean it to be interpreted that way. He was just shooting the breeze. Maybe who knows? Who knows? But then on Fox News, this is not a report. This is Brendan Carr.
Oh dear.
On Fox News saying there's a news distortion complaint at the FCC still having to do with CBS, and CBS has a transaction before the FCC, and I'm pretty confident that news distortion complaint over the CBS 60 Minutes transcript is something that's likely to arise in the context of the FCC's review of that transaction. So that's pretty explicit.
Spelling it out.
Yeah. It's not leaving much to imagination there. He's saying that distortion complaint about the interview is getting in the way of your $8 billion merger.
Gee.
So then,
diabolical.
So then suddenly Paramount decided they wanted to settle this lawsuit as well. They decided that the lawsuit was a lot stronger than they had previously considered. They suddenly felt sorry for Trump having that $8 billion, so that $10 billion hole in his pocket, reasonably believed to be $10 billion. And so they, I should say, there's no confirmations here. There's just news report after news report saying that they are currently negotiating to settle.
Okay.
There's been no settlement so far, okay? Sure. So this is still in the world of speculation, but lots of different newspapers are reporting the same thing here, okay? And this is, even though when the lawsuit was first filed, they said the lawsuit Trump has brought today against CBS is completely without merit and we will vigorously defend against it, they said back then before things changed. Okay, then they released the transcript and the video at this point in time. Because obviously they thought to themselves, well, we just got to shut down this bloody complaint, right? So they released the transcript and the video, and that then proved what we've been saying all along, which was there's nothing to it. There's no doubt. There's no way you can interpret that footage I just showed you as other than legitimate editing, okay? That's just is unambiguous. So what did Trump say in response to that? Her real answer was crazy or dumb, so they actually replaced it with another answer in order to save her or at least make her look better. He wasn't assuaged at all. That's fine. Who cares what he has to say?
So he just didn't believe it.
Yeah, he just didn't believe it. And then it just didn't pretend it didn't happen, basically.
He's really going through a lot of mental anguage as a consumer of
so
this
much anguish.
show.
Well, think about the hole in your pocket made by $10 billion.
I do often.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what he thinks. It matters what Brendan Carr thinks, because Brendan Carr is the guy who has to approve the merger, right? Brendan Carr got his transcript, the thing that he said he wanted.
He wanted, yeah.
So what was his reaction? He turned up on Fox News again, of course, and he said, CBS's conduct is hard to explain. On the one hand, CBS immediately released the unredacted transcript of a recent interview with Vice President Vance, yet for months they refused to release the one with Vice President Harris. So he decided to follow up on the news distortion accusation anyway, he said. The FCC has now opened up a proceeding and is seeking public comment on the news distortion complaint. Transparency here is important. The FCC's review will continue and we look forward to the public's feedback. So he's continuing on investigating, even though they have the footage now, which proves there's literally nothing to it.
I love how Trump's been in for so many days now, and the word transparency just means nothing anymore. Whether you're Musk, whether you're Carr.
Yes. Yeah, it makes me very angry, this story, actually.
Yeah.
And then Trump's lawyer said, real accountability for CBS and Paramount will ensure that the president is compensated for the harm done to him and will deter the fake news from further distorting the facts to advance a partisan agenda. President Trump looks forward to seeing this case through to a just conclusion. Don't worry, guys. I'm sure you'll get that just conclusion. I'm sure it's coming. But I will give Trump the last word on this lawsuit. This is from Truth Social. CBS and 60 Minutes defrauded the public by doing something which has never to this extent been seen before. They 100% removed Kamala's horrible election-changing answers to questions and replaced them with completely different and far better answers taken from another part of the interview. It's just bullshit. This is after it came out.
Yeah.
This was election-changing stuff. He won the election. Election interference and, quite simply, election fraud at a level never seen before. JFK didn't win his election. What are you talking about? At a level never seen before. CBS should lose its license. The entire network should lose its license. And the cheaters at 60 Minutes should all be thrown out. Thrown out where? I don't know, out of the building. And this disreputable news show should be immediately terminated. Well, you don't need to terminate it because CBS have lost their license in your world, so there's no new 60 Minutes. With the new Democrat scandal that just arose with respect to US aid, illegally paying large sums of money to Politico and other media outlets, see, I told you, this is just now. The question must be asked, was CBS paid for committing this fraud? What? Were they paid to have two different parts of the same answer? One used on a preview and the other used... Okay.
They were paid by...
Many other questions to come. I'm sure they are. This will go down as the biggest broadcasting scandal in history. That's the worst lawsuit of all time. Let's put this all together. What have we learned? I'm going to drop the sarcasm now. Trump has long bullied people by launching ridiculous lawsuits against them that he can afford to string out forever because he's rich, knowing they can't, knowing it will cost them time, it will cost them stress, and it will literally bankrupt them. He does this all the time, right? That's a classic tactic of Trump's.
Yeah.
It's a noxious tactic, and it's in my view a borderline corrupt tactic. But now he's president and he's shown a demonstrated tendency to outrightly, corruptly punish his enemies and reward his allies. The subjects of these ridiculous lawsuits now have to settle with him. They have no choice. That's what's going on. This number one pays Trump off with literally $100 million worth of legal bribes. These are bribes. Let's not fuck around here. These are bribes and it's legal. That's the first thing. Second thing is this sets precedents in the law. Like, I'm not saying that, I mean, these are settlements, so they don't have literal precedent value. But every single time someone launches one of these bullshit lawsuits and gets away with it, that sets a standard of other rich people
to do
the same thing.
Sure.
Like he's chipping away at not the legal First Amendment standard in America, but the practical First Amendment standard in America. So it's chipping away, chipping away.
For the people who can afford it.
Yeah, for the people who can afford it, not for the people who can't afford it. But this is literally undermining America settlement by settlement with these junk lawsuits. And this, in my view, this is the most corrupt practice that Trump is involved with. I mean, there are things where he makes more money. There are things which are dodgy in other ways. But in my view, like launching deliberately insane junk lawsuits with the purpose of settling them to blackmail people with. Like that just, when you're president and you're supposed to, you've taken an oath to take care of all laws. It's just mind-numbingly corrupt. And it's one of those ones where we just accept it and just move on, but you should just blink for a second, just think about just how awful this is. I think it's just such a bad practice. So I took I took 40 odd minutes doing that, but I think it's worth it
Sounds good.
because that is a doozy, I reckon.
Yeah.